How you guys doing today?
It's snowing.
I mean,
It is snowing.
it's not ideal conditions, but
Fair.
I'm glad to be here.
Honestly.
Ish.
Where are we? The Panther Podcast.
The Panther Podcast room in
We're
the
doing it.
Oasis.
Curtain Hall. Then what are we doing today, guys? We're talking about coffee.
Our favorite caffeinated beverage.
Yeah.
Everyone's.
How do you have your coffee, Alyssa?
Ugh. I mean, like, ideally,
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a cappuccino
Oh.
with soy milk.
I mean,
But I don't really like ordering that here because it's really just a latte in the United States when you order a cappuccino.
fair.
Yeah.
How about you, Maggie?
I'm a cold brew person. I just really love a good cold brew with some cream in it. That's my go-to.
Super fair.
Yeah. You Honey Nut Cheerio beverage?
Oh my god, how did she know? Oh my god, I know you for like 2 minutes. You already know my beverage. No, but at the grind, shout out UW. Yeah, I get the Honey Nut Cheerio latte iced because no matter how cold it is, I like cold beverages.
Yeah, I feel like iced coffee is my personal favorite way to drink it.
As a like always sweaty person, I like iced. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah. Where did it come from?
Yeah. Let's find out together. Yeah, so I thought I'd talk about a couple legends of the origins of coffee, where it comes from, and kind of how it spread across the world. So let's talk about it. Ready? Picture it. The cloud forests of Kaffa, Ethiopia in the end of the 14th century. Obviously, we all know what that looks like. So, but for those of you who don't know what that looks like, here we go. We got mossy, low-hanging branches, some hazy sunlight piercing the dense canopy above. We got the colobus monkeys observing from high branches above us. And if you don't know what a colobus monkey is, I highly suggest giving that a goog. But picture like a skunk and a monkey and like super long, beautiful hair. You'll Google it later. It's crazy. Okay. What's that? Oh. It's a whooshing of wing beats as the hornbill takes flight somewhere near us. All right. Here comes my guy Kaldi and his tribe of goats. I mean, like a group of goats is called a tribe, like a parliament of owls or a business of ferrets.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wait, the goat group is the business of ferrets?
Essentially, yes. So like a herd of goats is called a tribe.
Okay.
It's a tribe of goats.
Where's the
Nice.
business of ferrets come in, though?
I was just saying, like, it's like a group of owls is a parliament of owls, and then like a group of ferrets is a business. So, like, you know, strange words for animals. We're like 3 sentences in. All right, here we go. Kaldi and his tribe of goats. All right, Ethiopia, mossy branches. Okay. So they're chilling, grazing, drinking some water, classic goat stuff. You know how it goes. And Kaldi notices that after his tribe of goats ate a certain berry, they're like staying up all night. And I'm assuming having like goat parties, like join the tribe goat party yas. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So Kaldi goes to his local abbot, which I didn't know what that was. So Google again helps me a lot. An abbot, which is an ecclesiastical title given to a male head of a monastery in various Western religious traditions, including Christianity. Enough said, obviously. So when Kaldi is like, Abbot, my goats are partying all night after eating this berry. I don't know what's up. And the abbot was like, okay, cool. And he got some of the berries, and he made a drink out of it. And he noticed that evening he was super into prayer and did not get tired like he usually did. And he went to the other monks in the monastery and was like, bros, drink this drink, and prayer tonight is going to be lit. And knowledge of this energizing berry began to spread across the globe. That's the starting myth of coffee.
So it was really by accident.
Mm-hmm. Goats. Trap goats.
Mm-hmm. Go through the goat for that, you know?
Wordplay. Okay. So that's like who knows? You know what I mean? Anyways, Kaldi, Ethiopia. Okay, cool. So now we're going to talk about the Arabian Peninsula. And this is like no jokes, just business. All right. Oh, and I forgot to say, but shout out to the National Coffee Association USA, established in 1911, because this is basically word for word of what they said. Anyways, okay. So the Arabian Peninsula. Coffee cultivation and trade began on the Arabian Peninsula, and by the 15th century, coffee was being grown in the Yemeni district of Arabia, and by the 16th century, it was known in Persia, Egypt, Syria, and Turkey. And coffee was not only enjoyed in homes, but also in many public coffee houses called, and my Arabic is perfect, obviously, so they're called kahvekhane, which began to appear in cities across the Near East. So the popularity of coffee houses was unequaled, and people frequented them for all kinds of social activities. Not only did the patrons drink coffee and engage in conversation, but they also listened to music, watched performers, played chess, and kept current on news. So coffee houses quickly became such an important center for the exchange of information that they were often referred to as schools of the wise. I did not know that. Super cool. Well, I didn't know any of this. So, with thousands of pilgrims visiting the holy city of Mecca each year from all over the world, knowledge of this wine of Araby began to spread. So that's Arabia. Now we're going to Europe. We're jumping around real fast. Many years. All right. So coffee comes to Europe. European travelers to the east would come back and be like, there's this black drink, you have to try it, super delish, makes me pumped, it's great. And by the 17th century, it was pretty popular in Europe. However, not everybody was a fan, and some even referred to it as the bitter invention of Satan. Classic. So when coffee arrived in Venice in 1615, the local clergymen were like, no to the coffee. Evil invention of Satan, it's fine. And coffee was such a big deal and had so much, like, polemic stuff around it that Pope Clement VIII, obviously everyone knows who that is, was asked to intervene. So Pope Clement, Clem for short, his friends call him that, was like, bitter invention of Satan, gotta try it, okay, thanks. And he drank it and was like, okay, I see you, coffee, and he loved it, gave it the papal approval, okay? All right. So even before... I mean, when you get the papal approval, you know it's real. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay, Clem, here we go. So at this time, the most popular breakfast drinks were beer and wine. Oh, nope. Skipped. So we're going back going back a little bit. Okay, so even before and while Pope Clem was seeing what was up with the coffee houses and whatnot, the coffee houses were spreading everywhere, and especially in England, Austria, France, Germany, and Holland. And in England, some coffee houses were called penny universities, because for the price of a penny, you could buy a cup of coffee and participate in stimulating conversation. And also, like, I wish I would have done, maybe we can Google it later, like, how much was a penny in 1615 compared to now? Like $250,000.
Oh, I was gonna say, like...
Yeah. Moneytimeconverter.com. Check it out. Anyways, so... At this time, the most popular breakfast drinks were beer and wine, which is wild to me. And I'm like, can you just, like, drink water and stay hydrated? Okay, thanks. So people started drinking coffee in the morning instead, and their productivity greatly improved at their jobs. And they began their days alert and energized and not drunk, you know? So a little bit of a change up there. And then by the mid-17th century, there were over 300 coffee houses in London alone, many of which attracted like-minded patrons, including merchants, shippers, brokers, and artists. Many businesses grew out of these specialized coffee houses, including Lloyd's of London, which obviously everyone knows who that is. But for those of you who don't know what Lloyd's of London is, and to be clear, I don't know what that is, Lloyd's of London, generally known simply as Lloyd's, is an insurance and reinsurance market located in London, England. So I was like, oh, insurance, like 100%. Next sentence. Unlike most of its competitors in the industry, it is not an insurance company. Rather, Lloyd's is a corporate body governed by the Lloyd's Act of 1871.
What?
So I stopped right there. You need to know more, you can give that a Google yourself, all right? Lloyd's started coffee houses. Okay. London, we're in the New World now. New World. Here we go. In the mid-1600s, coffee was brought to New Amsterdam, later called New York, baby, by the British, so like New York. While coffee...
New York.
So while coffee houses were rapidly spreading, tea remained the preferred drink until 1773, when those pesky colonists revolted against a heavy tax on tea imposed by King George III.
Threw it all in the water.
Often known as the Boston Tea Party. And that would forever change American drinking preferences for coffee. Quote, coffee, the favorite drink of the civilized world. Thomas Jefferson.
You know it's real then.
Honestly.
Founding fathers.
Okay, those wigs though, am I right?
Oh, you are right.
Honestly. Okay, so plantations around the world. New World, blah, 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 plantations around the world. So as demand for the beverage continued to spread, there was fierce competition to cultivate coffee outside of Arabia. So the Dutch finally got seedlings in the later half of the 17th century, and their first attempts to plant them in India failed because of the weather and soil and whatnot. But they were successful with their efforts in Batavia on the islands of Java in what is now Indonesia. And I was like, Java! Yeah, coffee, Java, of course. And the plants thrived, and soon the Dutch had a productive and growing trade in coffee. They then expanded the cultivation of coffee trees to the islands of Sumatra and Celebes. And I've heard of Sumatra with coffee and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't go further, but like Sumatra, Java, coffee, Dutch, yeah, okay. So, coming to the Americas.
More on that later.
Honestly, yourself, Google it. Okay, so coming to the Americas. In 1714, the mayor of Amsterdam presented a gift of a young coffee plant to King Louis XIV of France. The king ordered it to be planted in the Royal Botanical Garden in Paris. And in 1723, a young naval officer named Gabriel de Cleo, and obviously that was the best pronunciation in the world, he obtained a seedling from the king's plant. And despite a challenging voyage complete with horrendous weather, a saboteur who tried to destroy the seedling, and a pirate attack, he managed to transport it safely to Martinique. And I was like, of course, yeah, Martinique. Never heard of it. So I Googled Martinique. Do you know what Martinique is?
No.
Okay, cool. So Martinique is a rugged Caribbean island that's part of the Lesser Antilles, an overseas region of France. Its culture reflects a distinctive blend of French and West Indian influences. Its largest town of Fort-de-France features steep hills, narrow streets, and La Savonne, a garden bordered by shops and cafes. In the garden is a statue of island native Josephine de Beauharnais, the first wife of Napoleon Bonaparte.
That's interesting.
Right? And, like, never heard of her, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Martinique, Josephine, so many new things. Okay, so once planted, the seedling not only thrived, but is credited with the spread of over 18 million coffee trees on the island of Martinique and in the next 50 years. And even more incredible is that this seedling was the parent of all coffee trees throughout the Caribbean, South, and Central America.
Wow.
So I was like, Martinique, important.
Very important.
Okay, so
That's crazy how plants work.
tell me about it. Botany and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, Brazil. Shout out Brazil. So the famed Brazilian coffee owes its existence to Francisco de Melo Palheta, who was sent by the emperor to French Guiana to get coffee seedlings. And the thing is I Googled this guy, and multiple things said that he was sent there to get the coffee seedlings, but then other things said that he went there to settle a land dispute between Dutch and French Guiana, and that he went to, like, steal the seedlings, so Google doesn't know all. Neither do I. Okay, so the French were like, no, this is our coffee, get out, okay, bye. But Francisco was super hot, so he used his hot privilege to do a little something with the French governor's wife at the time, and captivated by his good looks, she gave him a large bouquet of flowers before he left. And buried inside were enough coffee seeds to begin what is today a billion-dollar industry.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
What if he was ugly?
I was gonna say, everything is about
What if she wasn't into him?
Honestly. So Brazil, K thanks Francisco de Melo Palheta. Okay, so missionaries and travelers, traders and colonists continued to carry coffee seeds to new lands, and coffee trees were planted worldwide. Plantations were established in magnificent tropical forests and on rugged mountain highlands. Some crops flourished, while others were short-lived. New nations were established on coffee economies. Fortunes were made and lost. By the end of the 18th century, coffee had become one of the world's most profitable export crops. After crude oil, coffee is the most sought commodity in the world. And that is a brief history of coffee.
Very interesting.
Definitely.
It's
An
just,
extensive history.
Oh, yeah, just a couple hundred years real quick.
well, it was almost like it was used for currency in a sense. Like,
100%.
Definitely.
100%. But I just think it's so interesting, especially like the Brazilian coffee, that like, what if that woman didn't give him that plant?
I know.
We wouldn't have the coffee we had, or that French governor, or no, the other one on Martinique. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought all of that was super interesting. I didn't know any of that.
What if the saboteur succeeded, though?
Pirates,
Definitely.
weather,
Yeah.
all of the things.
It was meant to be.
Honestly. But, super big shout out again to the National Coffee Association USA, because 90% of that was their information. And if you want to know more, you can give yourself your own little Google.
Definitely worth a look into. Like, I didn't even know any of that.
For sure. So, let's jump around the world, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna start in Europe.
Let's do it.
Right?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, as you mentioned earlier, coffee came to Europe through the port in Venice. So, Europe is not just about drinking coffee. It's about the whole experience. You're not there just to drink the coffee. You're there for the socialization. You're there for the environment.
Penny universities.
Exactly. So, keep that in mind as we're, talking about European coffee culture.
Yes.
Coffee is obviously important, but the environment is more important of it. So, as we mentioned, it came to Venice, and then, as we know, in America, coffee is very different than it is in Italy, especially. But we would not have the delicious milk frothy, sugary coffee that we know without the invention of the espresso machine.
Espresso.
Woohoo!
Wow.
Which was invented by Angelo Moriando in 1884. And it's basically, he was like, this dripping coffee thing takes forever. I need to get coffee in the morning, and I need it quick. So, he was like, how can I do this faster? Instead of boiling it in a pot, I make the grinds really, really thin, and then I press them together, and then I use the steam, and it gums up, and I make espresso, which is
Science.
fast coffee express. Espresso.
Oh my gosh, words.
Wow.
Yes. Crazy.
The more you know.
And yeah, wow. But
Yes.
it's not espresso.
No, but it's
espresso.
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 But yes. So, obviously coffee is also meant to be taken quickly. So, coffee in Italy comes in a little espresso cup, which is like a quarter of the size of a coffee cup that you drink in America.
If that, yeah.
And it comes, you can get a single shot, you can do, which is called cafe, which is not coffee. It's a shot of espresso if you order that. And you can do it a double, which is called a doppio. And you can get a macchiato, but it's not going to be the macchiato that you would order here. It's going to be espresso with like a little bit of foam milk in it. Yes. So, when you go to Italy and you order those things, keep that in mind. And also, they do not sell the drip coffee that we were talking about before in an Italian coffee shop, which is also called a bar, which most people think is where you buy alcohol. But it is not. It is where you get coffee. But usually at night, they do turn into an actual bar. So a lot of places will have coffee during the day, and you can buy coffee all day there. But then at night, it like actually flips into a bar.
Interesting.
But they don't have like the American style coffee. So like if you want to get close to that, you can order an Americano, which is basically them just giving you espresso with some hot water in it.
Okay, wait, but okay. So I lived in Brazil for a couple years, and I would want a mug of coffee because that's how we start our day, right?
Yeah.
And I would get like cafe, and then they would give these little cups, and I was like, no. But then I was like, how do I get this, giant mug? And they would say, oh, you need an Americano. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, a little bit of shade over here, but I get it. So yeah, no, makes sense. Okay, cool.
Yes. So, obviously, the espresso is, like, the Italian legacy. So, when you're there, try an espresso.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's just like a little bit about Italian coffee culture. And then we're gonna hop across the Mediterranean.
Let's go.
We're gonna head to Greece.
Greece.
So, as a lot of things happen in Greek culture, the fall of Constantinople brought a lot of Turkish culture into Greek culture.
Mm.
So the Turkish had inherited the coffee from the Arabs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, that's how coffee gets into Greece. So, the primary way to make coffee has two different names.
Mm-hmm.
There's one in Greece, which is called a briki, and then there's one in Turkish called a chazve. Obviously, I pronounced that perfectly.
Obviously. Oh my gosh. Fluent in Turkish.
But it's essentially made with this pot that has this like long handle, and it just like sits on your stove, and it can be made of brass or copper, and you use medium roasted beans, and then it boils, and then there's this foam that comes to the top, and then you like take the foam off,
Mm-hmm.
and you put it in like a small cup, which is called a dimatas.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just keep doing that repeatedly until you get the cup full of like this like foam.
Interesting.
Oh, so like the
Yes.
foam turns into the liquid or whatever.
Yeah, it's like thick coffee basically.
Oh wow.
Whoa.
Yes.
Wait, so like, is it like bubbly?
Well,
And,
so
is
imagine
it,
it's like sitting on your
carbonated
Right.
in a way?
stove,
Right.
and it's like the foam, like milk foam, like that you order on top of your latte.
Sure.
So it's just like frothy coffee.
yeah, it's like frothy coffee.
Ah, very interesting.
But okay, so usually they don't put milk in that or cream or sugar. Like it's usually just like
Straight up.
straight up.
Not a fan.
No, yeah. So then this became a big controversy though over the name because obviously people were calling it Turkish coffee and some people were calling it Greek coffee.
Mm.
So now, if you ever go to Greece, do not call it Turkish coffee. You'll probably get harassed by a local.
Noted.
Call it Greek coffee.
Got it.
But typical Greek coffee is a little bit different than a lot of places in Europe because they actually enjoy cold coffee because it's hot there a lot of the year.
I feel that.
So they do iced espresso, which is basically exactly what you would think it is, iced espresso.
Yeah.
And then they do iced cappuccinos, which sounds delicious. And then, of course, the traditional Berkey that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also do, like, a frappe, which is just has milk and sugar in it, and it's cold.
Which is like the same thing as the McDonald's frappe that I get, right?
Definitely not. I would say it's not that, like, I don't even know, like, little ice chunks.
Yeah.
It's more, like, just, like, ice, the type of coffee that we talked about previously, mixed with milk and sugar.
Oh, sure.
Oh.
So, here's a fun little myth about coffee, though.
Tell us
because most people in Greece are culturally Greek Orthodox Christians. So, they inherited this superstition from, it's not an official teaching of the church, but it's something that, like, a lot of people believe in. It includes the fear of the evil eye.
Mm.
And it's bad luck to clink your glasses together with coffee. And the superstition is, though, that people can tell your fortune from the sediment on the bottom of your coffee cup.
Okay.
Yes. So, and it's treated like it's a secret and that no one really talks about, though. Very interesting.
I'm just thinking
Well-
Harry Potter, that like professor that like reads the tea leaves and like freaks out and stuff. That's what I'm picturing right now.
Wait, so I don't remember, there are people that read it or like,
Well, I think that there's like a fortune-telling person that tells
Okay.
like your fortune from the like coffee grounds left
Got
at the bottom
it.
of your cup after you finish it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
want one.
Okay, and now we're gonna just fly over
Real quick.
to, Finland.
We're there.
So, Finland actually consumes the most coffee per capita than anyone else in the world.
Would not have guessed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me neither.
Very interesting. So, coffee came to Finland in the 17th century from Sweden and Russia. At first, it was a beverage for the rich people, and then it was considered medicine and healing properties. And then in the 18th century, everyone was drinking it. So, Finns, because, you know, we're close.
Oh, yeah.
Consume coffee much like we do in the U.S. They drink a lot of espresso drinks, but they also, of course, have their own particularities, which is actually interesting that most of them prefer light roasted coffee, which is actually different than in the U.S. because we mostly prefer medium and dark roasted coffee.
Interesting.
That is really interesting.
Yes, but they do the typical drip coffee pot like we do.
Right.
Got it.
So, they have a couple little fun versions of their own coffee, which is called the cave.
Oh.
Which is basically the filtered coffee pot, but they add water to it, which a lot of Europeans...
Wait, isn't that just coffee?
Yeah, well, they add more water.
Okay. All right.
So it's just like watered down?
Yes, watered down coffee,
Got it.
which a lot of Europeans are like, no.
What, that strong kick?
Miss me with that.
Honestly.
So, but they do have this other type of coffee, which I am very intrigued by. It's called Café Ost. It's coffee and cheese.
Whoa.
Yes, exactly what you're thinking. Yes, cheese. It's immersed in the cup with the hot coffee, and then you stir the coffee, and it acts as the cream. And this is more used as like an afternoon snack.
Okay, but like I'm picturing like the thickness.
I
don't know about that.
Oh,
like no judgment, but also
I pulled up a little
I can't.
picture for you guys,
Please.
so that you can look at it.
Oh my god, that's cheese. Those are like cha-cha chunks.
Wait, and so is the cheese supposed to like dissolve?
I think it's supposed to get less.
Soft?
Yeah, I was gonna say less hard. You mix it in as much as you feel like you want to put that effort in there.
Okay, but I also learned recently that some people eat like pie with a slice of American cheese on the top of it. What do you mean? Oh yeah.
No, I knew that one already.
Oh my god.
That's
I did not
like
know
American diner type thing.
That's
I feel like.
wild to me.
Yes.
And now
Where?
cheese and coffee. Whew.
Where do they eat the cheese and whatever?
Oh, well, apparently here, if we're the cheese state, I
I
don't know.
guess.
I mean, like, we are the cheese state, but I don't think I could put cheese in my coffee.
I don't know. Or on my pie.
I don't think I could put cheese on my pie either, but I've seen that before. I'm pretty sure my grandma's done that one.
Whew. Interesting.
Well, I mean, it must add like a particular like salty nutty flavor, whatever. But I will try that Finnish coffee once.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
I would for sure give it a try.
For sure.
Is it something that I'm eager to drink, I think? Probably.
No. That's a hard no.
But, so something that's also really common in Europe is, like, labor agreements to give people coffee breaks throughout the days. So, I worked in Europe, and we would go to a coffee shop, like a bar, 3 times a day. And we would go and we'd get a coffee, and we'd just, like, hang out there, chat with the baristas, and then we would, like, come back. And that's everywhere in Europe.
Classic Europe. I lived in Portugal for a little bit, and it was the same way.
Yeah.
I loved it. And, like, even on the universities, they had, like, multiple little coffee shops, like, at the university, because you were like, oh, I got 3 minutes in between class, quick espresso, let's go.
Yes.
Totally get it.
Okay. Now, I guess we're going to fly across the globe.
Here
We're
we
going to go to Australia.
Good day, mate.
The Aussies. So, coffee history in Australia actually begins after the Second World War.
Oh, wow.
When Italian immigrants started to bring over their little Italian coffee machines, also known as the mocha pot, the espresso.
Yes.
So, it actually revolutionized the coffee industry for them because, unlike most of us who started drinking coffee from the drip dry method, they've started drinking espresso.
Interesting.
Yes. So, coffee culture is rooted in quality rather than the convenience of it.
Okay.
So, Australia has been making espresso since as early as the 1950s. Apparently. So, Australians created these coffee shops to bring the people from the outback into the city and create a place to cultivate like a community. And obviously these places were starting to get a lot of, like, rich people were moving from European countries to Australia.
Sure.
And were gentrifying the area.
Classic.
And it was, yes. So it was becoming, like, a rich area. And so then the coffee started to get more and more elevated.
Right.
So, coffee in Australia is espresso style, which is obviously, we do have in the U.S., but most people on a day-to-day basis drink, like, the drip coffee from your pot.
For sure, for sure.
So, coffee in Australia comes in smaller sizes and higher prices and is much stronger than American coffee. So, the most people drink a flat white or a latte are the most popular drinks. And in case you have no idea what a flat white is, because I had no idea what it was, I gave it a quick Google search, and I found out that it's basically exactly like you would expect a steam. So here's a little picture for you. There's a latte, and you put the espresso, and then you put the steamed milk, and then there's the foam on the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
A flat white just doesn't have the foam.
Okay, so it's like the same thing.
Yes.
Essentially.
See, I was picturing, like, a latte with, like, a slice of mozzarella, like, on the top of it.
No,
flat
more
white. You know what I'm saying?
Cheese. So, it's about quality, not quantity. So, Starbucks, everyone's favorite coffee place in America, actually did really horrible in Australia because they said that it tasted like crap and their coffee was really bad.
Nice.
Yes. So there are 23 Starbucks stores in the whole country of Australia.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yes. Well, see, I told this fact to someone else and they were like, that's kind of a lot. Like, that's, I feel like, is a lot. And I was like, let me give you some perspective on that.
Here we go.
There are 145 Starbucks in Wisconsin.
Oh.
The UK has 842 Starbucks.
Boom.
And France has 205.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
So
23 really is
not
a
that
small,
many.
small number.
Honestly.
Yes.
Comparatively.
So most people prefer, you know, the independently owned cafes. They go to their normal cafe. They go for a walk. They sit there for the experience. Like, that is part of their daily routine there. And actually, supposedly from this site that is obviously based on Australia, Melbourne is the biggest coffee hub in the world and has the best coffee in the world.
Okay, back to, like, Google not knowing everything. I feel like a bunch of cities are like, we have the best coffee in the world. Okay, thanks.
It's all
Definitely.
opinion.
That's like, but I'll go give you some facts to, like, back that up.
Let's do it.
Because obviously this person gave facts to back it up. So, Melbourne is labeled this because there are coffee baristas who come there from all over the world. And if you can't do intricate coffee art on top of lattes, you will not last a month there as a barista.
Get out. You can't make a cat? Get out.
Yeah,
Level
seriously.
Wow.
Yeah,
So it's more like an art form even.
definitely. And 95% of cafes in Melbourne are independently owned. And they like to make each space individualistic and reflect the environment that they're trying to create. So they have, like, a wide variety of decor, and the most uncommon place, the better. They'll be in, like, warehouses, old shop fronts, postmodern apartment buildings, under, like, bridges, in
under
shipping
bridges.
containers. Yeah.
Shipping
Wow.
containers.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure they're in, like, populated areas, but I'm just
Yes.
picturing, like, a shipping container in, like, the outback, and then, hello, yes, cheese with your coffee. All right, no, okay, I'm just still stuck on the cheese and the coffee. I can't get past that.
So, basically, it's a way of life for them.
Honestly.
So, yeah.
Wow.
When
That's
you go
really
to Australia,
interesting.
get some coffee.
Yeah, find
Order
some
yourself
unique
a flat
spots.
white.
Absolutely.
And if you go to Starbucks, you can just go home.
Yeah, literally. They'll
Okay, thanks.
probably
Just know
kick
you'll
you
get
right
glared
off.
at.
Honestly, yeah.
Kick you right off the island.
Well, thanks
Well-
there for all that information.
Of course.
Well, it's just really interesting, if I may take over now.
Of course.
Because China feels the complete opposite the way Australia feels about Starbucks.
Oh,
They, like, prefer Starbucks over their independently owned coffee.
wow.
Yeah, like 60% of the citizens in one of the cities. I can't remember where it was.
Beijing?
No.
Hong Kong?
No, Hong Kong, yes. They preferred, like, the taste of the Starbucks coffee over it. So I just think how taste can vary so much. But,
sure.
They generally prefer, like, more of the sweeter side of coffee, like, more of the cappuccinos, they like the mochas, stuff like that. And it was brought into China through, like, commerce trading, basically. So it was traded for other goods and then was popularized that way. So that's kind of interesting. But, yeah, it was brought... It's really sustained within their culture because of, like, all the international, like, traveling they do.
Right.
Like mostly white-collared, like, workers would drink coffee and, like, go out of their way to grab some in the morning kind of a thing. And, like, also students who were, like, studying abroad because, as we've already, like, kind of talked about, a lot of the world already has, like, an established coffee culture, where in, like, China, like, stereotypically it's been, like, mostly tea and like herbal drinks like that. So so like among younger generations and white collar workers, they've been looking for that like caffeine fix from the coffee. So it's just been more and more popularized. But they mostly do like drip bag kind of coffee though. It's normally less intense than espresso. But and interestingly enough, like they have a lot of on-demand coffee apps now. Like, there are a multitude of apps in China that you can get to just... They'll bring your coffee right to you.
Whoa.
Yeah, and this, like, skyrocketed. I, like, don't remember the exact number, but it's, like, $1 million industry there now since COVID happened.
Like DoorDash, but just for coffee.
Just coffee.
Huh.
Yeah, right?
Interesting.
Right. But black coffee's now, like, making more of a comeback because people are looking for, like, its more energizing, like, effects and stuff, and also it's just healthier. They believe it, like, heightens your metabolism and, like, obviously, like, focus and whatnot. But, yeah, so what's really interesting is that, I feel like I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong, but, like, Chengdu has over 4,000 coffee shops within its city limits.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts? And their population is 16.3 million people. So, I mean,
just a few.
Guess, I guess that makes sense, but just that 4,000 coffee shops, I was just like, wow, in one city limit. But anyway. Yeah, so that's China for you, but, like, moving into Korea,
Let's go.
It was brought into Korea from more of like a instant coffee kind of a vibe, if that makes sense.
Okay, but how do you feel about instant coffee?
Instant coffee, I really haven't had much of it.
No?
I don't know. I don't hate it. I'm not a huge supporter. I think I'm middle line. If I had to not drink coffee or drink instant coffee, I would drink instant coffee.
Super fair. When I was in Brazil, had a lot of different coffees, but I mainly drank their instant coffee. It was really good.
I was going to say,
Really?
it's different, though, when you're drinking it. Like, drinking it from, like, in Italy is, like, so different than when I would drink, like, if you drink instant coffee here. My grandma loves instant coffee, so whenever I go over to her house, she's like, you want some coffee? No, thanks, Grandma.
I mean, like, the coffee plantations in Brazil are, like, 2 miles away versus, you know what I mean, pick and save instant coffee that's been sitting there for 3 months.
Definitely.
So, yeah, totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but apparently in Korea, they liked it so much that they needed the real stuff now.
Oh.
And so now it started out like more of like a delicacy for like people in Korea, like mostly for like the royals and stuff like that. But then since more of like the public had access to like the instant coffee, which was brought in by like American exchange stores and stuff like that.
Sure.
That like now people were trying to like monetize it in a sense, so they started these like coffee houses they call like debangs.
Fluent.
Yeah, exactly. Just perfect pronunciation there. And they like were the first people to really introduce like coffee to a predominantly like tea drinking area. And each singular debong had like their own specific way of making it. Like it was always coffee, but it would be variations of like cream and sugar. And yeah. Anyways.
Cheese.
Yeah, no cheese. No cheese.
I'm never going to get over it, guys. I'm never going to get over it.
Okay, but they do have their own little catch and
All
like
right.
signature drink though.
Sure.
So they believe that like drinking coffee in an empty stomach is way too harsh and like can give you stomach aches and like whatnot. So then they started to incorporate eggs into their drinks. So
Okay, wait a second.
it was like, yeah, it was like more marketed for like early risers and like business people for like a quick little breakfast on the way to work. But yeah, they just crack an egg right in there. It's
In a raw egg in the coffee. And then, like, the egg cooks in the hot coffee?
from my understanding, yes.
That's wild.
I don't think it cooks like you think it cooks, though.
Because it's
Yeah.
not, like, boiling.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. To be clear, I would super try it, but also that's super wild. Like,
Yeah.
what?
I know. I once I read that, I was like, they're gonna love this.
Honestly.
But yeah, and it's like, as much as it's like drank like in the morning there, it's more considered a dessert now. Like they didn't have much of a dessert culture like before coffee kind of a thing, and now it's like an after meal kind of a drink.
That's so sad for them.
Honestly.
I know.
Dessert culture is
But I mean-
so nice.
But now they got eggs
It
and
is.
coffee, so good to go. What
Who
else
really
do you need?
loses?
Helps with that digestion.
There you go.
Okay, and now flying across back into this ocean, we're going to talk about Indonesia, because Indonesia is incredibly dependent on coffee production.
You can see that.
Yeah, so like coffee is not like a native plant there. Like you were talking about earlier, the Dutch brought it in during the 17th century and whatnot, and they brought it to East Central and West Java and Sumatra and Sulawesi.
Fluent. How many languages do
Yeah.
you speak? I love it.
Uno. Anyway, and then but these were mostly like Arabic coffee plants.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like more of dark roast. It was like that was like predominantly on all the islands. And then I forget who brought it over, but someone brought over coffee rust, which is like basically it
Rust?
destroys. It's like this mold that grows on coffee plants. It's called rust because it's like orangey in color, and it grows on the underside of the leaves.
Wow.
So like you can't really see it sometimes.
Someone brought over. Someone wanted to sabotage.
Yeah. Well, who knows?
Saboteur.
Now that's some conspiracy theory. But it wiped out a lot of like the coffee plantations, which
Sure.
was a lot of people's income. So then the Dutch brought over another type of coffee. I believe it was. Oh, no, I can't. This is embarrassing.
No worries. In Indonesia, I want to say, and this could be totally wrong, so make sure to Google it on your own time. But coffee is so successful there because Indonesia is a volcanic archipelago, and like the volcanic soil is super good for making coffee.
And that's like true for a lot of the places in South America too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Robusta. Robusta took over
A little
for
hardier.
Arabic. Yeah, it's a little hardier, less susceptible to like coffee rust.
Oh, sure.
And now that represents 90% of all Indonesian coffee is Robusta coffee, which is just like a medium roast basically,
Okay.
light to medium roast. And then they're one of the top coffee producers in the world. What's really interesting though is that the coffee that is produced in Indonesia is often like produced there, shipped overseas to be processed, and then brought back to Indonesia to be enjoyed by like the citizens.
What?
Which seems so backwards to me.
Yeah.
But
Gotta make that money, gotta export.
yeah. Not to mention like they have like Starbucks, which is like a US company, and then they have like Coffee Bean, which is like a Singapore company, and then like Segafredo, which is Italian. And it's just interesting how like, not that they prefer those, but they like having like a variety of different kinds of coffee. Like I was reading this like travel blog, and they have a lot of places where they import coffee from all over the world, and they have like coffee tastings at these plantations.
Oh, that's so cool.
Sign me
like,
up.
Yeah, it's like super interesting. So if you're gonna go to Indonesia, like I would totally look into it. But yeah, the most popular way to drink it is like black with just a tons of sugar in it. Well, like to taste, of course.
Yum.
But what's interesting is that they use sweetened condensed milk rather than like regular milk for their like creamer.
Mm-hmm.
So it like makes it like this thicker consistency, and they call that mud water.
I'm not about that thick drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just, no.
No, I just
Thank
don't
you.
think the texture, like it would be like sludgy in a way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not about
But
it.
like if you like sludge, no worries. That's totally fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not like trying to look down on you, just not for me, not for me. But yeah, but that wraps up my like Asian continental research there, but now we're gonna fly to the western sphere of the world.
Let's go.
We're gonna start with Brazil, so feel free to like put in your input on any of this. But so Brazil produces 1/3 of the coffee beans produced worldwide.
It's a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
Because that dude was so
Consumed
hot.
worldwide.
Literally.
Thanks to whatever his
Francisco
name was.
Gemelo Paleta.
Yes. And it's coffee is like is the main source of income for the Brazilian economy.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, did you drink it all day, every day?
All day, every day.
Yeah.
And I mean, even at the universities, you go for like 2 reais, you're getting this little cup, and
Yeah.
it just tastes so different. Like you were saying, like you go to Italy, espresso is nothing like any coffee that we have here. And
Yeah.
in Brazil, it's so local, it's so fresh.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I may be totally wrong, but I'm sure that a lot of it's exported, but I don't think they do what Indonesia does, which is like export it and then bring
Yeah.
it back or whatever.
From what I understand, they don't do that.
Okay, yeah, for sure. All right, let's hear more about Brazil.
Okay. Well, like you said, it's like drink all day, every day, and they do it like in those smaller cups, like definitely not like a huge mug like we do in the U.S. It's like comparable to an espresso cup, right?
Yeah, ish, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A little bit more than espresso, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they like have it for free a lot of the times at like gas stations and like various stores and stuff.
Well.
From what I've been reading online, you would know best, but apparently like the citizens generally drink like lower quality coffee just because like the higher quality stuff is saved for like exportation.
Fair.
But it's still considered like very high quality compared to a lot of other places in the world. And it is coffee is drank so much there that there's now like a particular word used for it. Correct? It's like cafezino.
Oh, cafezinho, which just means a little coffee. Like, oh, cafezinho? Let's
Yeah.
go. Let's go have some cafezinho. Little coffee.
Yeah, and like was that used like more like as a greeting? That's what I was reading online, that people like will see each other and be like, "Hi, cafe."
Well, I haven't really heard it like that, but I mean, yeah, you get invited for a little coffee day, you'd be like, oh, vamos tomar um cafezinho, like, let's have a little bit of coffee, or like, oh, we got like 2 minutes in between class, like, cafezinho, let's go.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Well, cool. And I mean, it used to be made more when you like add sugar while brewing the coffee, kind of a thing, and now they kind of transitioned more into the regular brewing process and add like whatever you want, kind of a thing. But yeah, coffee is kept very simple there with just like cream and sugar.
I will say that every single coffee that I had there, when it was made for me by somebody else, whether that was like at somebody's house or a cafe, was always very sweet, which I like that and I prefer that. But for people who really like black coffee, they were always really surprised that, you'll ask for your cafezinho, and then you'll get it, and it's pretty sweet.
That is really interesting. Is it made like how like drip coffee is made, or is it made like as espresso?
Couldn't tell you.
I mean, I think it's more drip from what I've been reading, but like, yeah, I think they would still have espresso.
Okay.
But yeah, now we're gonna go into Central America.
Let's go.
So each region in Guatemala is known for each of their distinctive flavors because they have like a really biodiverse and like interesting climate. And Antigua is actually like the most popular region to like get coffee from because it has a distinct flavor due from like the volcanic ash like we were talking about earlier.
Right.
It's like considered a delicacy like world round and like for its like super velvety taste.
Rolled around, yes.
Rolled around, you know, tripping over words over here.
Samesies.
But yeah, it's really interesting because most of the coffee production is by like plantation owners who are either like German or United States citizens. And like it's funny because it's like 40% of like, Guatemalans like produce exports. So, and like people in Guatemala didn't even start drinking their own coffee until like late 2000s. Like they have like a very new developing like coffee culture from like what I understand.
So like the white people came over and like took over everything?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They just like monopolized the coffee industry because they have really good climate for it and like didn't let any of the local people in on it.
Classic.
So, yeah, so that's really disappointing. But now a lot of local people are like starting to get into like farming their own and like that kind of stuff, and like coffee shops are becoming more and more popular, and it's seen as like a social thing, but it's also like people really like the energizing effects of it, and like it's starting to become incorporated in like morning routines and stuff. But yeah, pour over and French press are like the most commonly brewed coffee there.
Sure.
And they consume it a lot like we do here, just like by the mug or something like that. But yeah, very interesting, I think.
Definitely.
Very new. Even though they're known for their coffee, the people there are just starting to enjoy it themselves, which is so interesting.
Definitely.
You got another country for us?
This is my last one. We got Colombia.
Colombia.
Cannot be missed. Cannot be missed when we're talking about coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is the third largest exporter in the world. 95% of exports, this is very different from Guatemala in the sense that like in Colombia, a lot of the like coffee is like very locally produced. Like 95% of exports are from 5-acre family-owned operations.
I love that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I just think that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's drank socially. It's more about, like, socially connecting than it is, like, about the whole energizing, like, effects of it.
Sure.
And it's not even drank in the morning. It's more of, like, a social thing from, like, 3 to 7 p.m.
Okay.
So, yeah, very interesting. And, I mean, just like Guatemala, they have a lot of nutrient-rich soil because of the volcanic ash and stuff. So very fine produced coffee.
Quality.
Very good quality.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 million people, about the population of Nebraska, rely on coffee exports for income.
Love that.
And they often drink lower quality just like they do in Brazil, but still considered very high quality.
Right, their low quality is our like super mega high quality.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, the way they drink it, it's called tinto or inky water. It's just black coffee like we drink here in a mug, or it can be sweet and bitter depending on what beans you use, but...
Bitter invention of Satan, if you will.
Exactly, if you will. But yeah, that about wraps it up for Colombia.
Love it.
Yeah. So, coffee.
Coffee, coffee, coffee.
Coffee beans?
Well, and that was a brief little history around the world of coffee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very surface level. If you would like to know more, you can go to your local library and get some books on it.
Yeah, it's just really interesting how, like, there's, like, commonality in everything, but there's also just, like, it in different fonts, in a sense.
Definitely.
We should probably cut that out.
Okay, but for real, though, I want to try the egg in the coffee, and I want to try the cheese in the coffee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just, like, all the things.
Definitely.
The thing is, like, for the cheese one, I feel like you would eat the cheese at the end after it's been soaked.
I just need to know the consistency of the cheese. You know what I mean? Because, like, just thinking about if it's, like, melting in there and then it's, like, thick, I already said, pass on the sludge coffee. It's the consistency for me. But, like, if the flavor is there, I'm there, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it
Maybe
tastes
you
fine,
could,
that's
like,
fine.
Just drink the coffee and not eat the cheese at the end.
Well, then what's the point of having the cheese in there?
For the flavor.
Oh,
yeah,
duh,
super fair.
duh.
Super fair.
Well, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks so much. I hope that you guys learned some stuff about different coffee cultures. Maybe we just piqued a new interest for you. You're going to go on a deep dive, become a coffee expert.
Exactly. Become your own barista.
Next time you go to Starbucks, remember to ask for an egg in your latte.
Or cheese.
Yes.
Or cheese. Just to get the reactions, honestly.
And